Welcome to my cooking show. Today we're going to be making a birthday cake. This one, I'm gonna try and do a better job at filming it because I'm really excited about the decoration process. I have never made a cake like this. I'm going way out of my comfort zone. I normally only make round cakes that I spin on a turntable and smooth out the buttercream. This cake is going to be very interesting, and you're gonna want to stay tuned for this. Full credit for this recipe goes to bakingbeauty.net. I'll try and link the recipe down below. I did not make up this recipe. I was sure I had another thing of sprinkles somewhere. It's very possible that I actually just consolidated the sprinkles into one jar. It'll be a lightly sprinkled funfetti, okay? Let me measure these out. First things first, you want to wash your hands thoroughly. Okay, so now I take my egg. I want to tap it against the counter. I'm just passing the yolk. Also, if you happen to drop your egg yolk into your white, you can just scoop it out with your fingers and shake the yolk in your hand. Or you can use a slotted spoon to get it out. You can also use like a water bottle head. You just like use suction to pull the egg out. Salmonella. I don't know who's watching this that needs to be told to wash their hands, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Okay, so people are really picky about flour measurement in the baking community. For butter, a lot of recipes will call for unsalted butter and salt. These sticks of salted butter can sometimes have too much salt. I have never had an issue with it. What I usually do is I use salted butter and I just omit the salt, but I also know people who use salted butter and add the salt. It's a lot cheaper to use salted. And the last thing about your ingredients, people always talk about how you want your butter at room temperature. You want it like softened so that you can beat it into the batter. But really, you want all your ingredients at room temperature. So I've had this milk sitting out and these egg whites sitting out. What's the point in having softened butter if you're going to pour cold milk on top of it? It's just going to become hard again. And the issue with that is that when you put like hard butter in the oven, your cake texture is not going to be quite right. Now, this is not a hard and fast rule. This doesn't mean that your baking will definitely not come out, but it's definitely a good idea to leave your fridge ingredients out just for a little bit. Like, honestly, I just did these cold things first. And by the time I get to the ingredients to use them, they should be warmed up quite a bit. So, there's some pro tips. Now it's time for like the cooking show segment.
Start by combining the vanilla and the milk. Set aside wet and dry ingredients.
Oh, the microwave.
We're creaming together our butter and our sugar to make the base of our cake batter.
I don't want to have a disaster. I'm just going to stamp it in a little bit.
Your butter and sugar should be light and fluffy. Make sure to scrape the sides of your bowl to incorporate all the pieces. Now you're going to whip up 5 egg whites. We're looking for stiff peaks.
You want to be careful with this, but you should be able to tip over your bowl without them coming out. So this is stiff peaks, so we did just right. I'm going to alternate, starting with dry. I'm going to put a third of the dry ingredients and then half of the wet, and then a third of the dry, half of the wet, a third of the dry. About half a cup of my, I'm gonna put this option. The first time I made this, I was a bit concerned about the consistency at this point. So right now what I have is basically like a thick like cookie dough like substance. When you're making cake and you see cookie dough, that's a red flag. I'm not too worried about that this time. I'm gonna scrape out the beaters and I'll be right back with you. From this point forward, your batter is fold only. You don't want to use any hand mixers or stand mixers. We're gonna get our arm workout in for the day. We've done this beautiful work whipping up our stiff peaks and incorporating lots of air into these eggs. And if we use an electric mixer of any kind, that air is going to be completely gone and all that work was for nothing. Now it's time for the fun part. I'm gonna fold in the sprinkles.
Wow.
Now it's time for the
experimental.
This cake is going to be a sheet cake. Feeling good about it though. Maybe a little overly confident, but good. There are my cakes in the oven. All right, dishes time. These cool in their pans. I'm normally one to turn out the cake and let it cool on a rack. In this particular case, just because it's so large this way, I am just gonna let it cool in the pan. I'll come back to you when I'm turning out the cake, but at this point the baking segment of this video is done and we're moving on to the prep and decorate. I could be interrupted at any moment by my mother or father coming home, so just keep that in mind. I have just gotten back from the grocery store. I'd like to show you what I bought for decorating this cake. Oops. Wait, one sec. Little miniature, or they're not miniature. I bought 6 individually wrapped Rice Krispie treats. I have chocolate fondant. I have more chocolate fondant than I ever need. And then I have green fondant. I have ideas, just you wait. These 2 dinosaurs from the dollar store. And then I bought a rock candy.
Process going on, but mankind won't be destroyed. you and I are working here today is evidence of that.
This is the finished dinosaur cake. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I stacked my smaller cake on the left side of my larger cake just so that it would have sort of a mountain appearance, or like a hill, like an increase. When I molded my Rice Krispie treat volcano, I wanted to see if I could make this velociraptor. No, it's a pterodactyl. I wanted to see if I could make this pterodactyl fly. So I actually put a boba straw all the way through the volcano, so it sticks right into the cake. So the dinosaurs and the boba straw are the only things that are not edible on this cake. And then I used green fondant to make a bunch of tiny little green leaves. I used some more chocolate fondant and pressed the plastic dinosaur foot into it to make little dinosaur footprints for him. And then I crushed up graham crackers to make sand. I think it looks really, really cool. So now if only the cleanup was as easy as the baking and decorating.